Hey everyone, Carl with Littleroot Lessons bringing you a deep dive featuring the long-awaited double horse team. I've been kind of building up to this because Spectrier and Glastrier do a lot of things on their own, and I wanted to cover those separately before we dive into what this archetype called double horse is. Again, if you like the video, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications for when new videos go live. Comment down below who you want to see me cover. I am fast running out of cores and archetypes to talk about, so we might look at covering some more specific Pokemon that are kind of popular in the format, things like Regieleki, and some other stuff like that. So comment down below if you want to see anything specific. So Double Horse. Double Horse is the pet name for the Glastrier Spectrier duo because it's two horses. It's not actually the synergistic archetype or combo like we see for most teams. Kind of like how Colossal and Sun and Rain and all these things are very synergistic and do a lot of things together. Spectre and Glastrier kind of are just these powerful Pokemon just put together on a team because they just do things. Spectrier being a fast special attacker, Glastrier being a slow, bulky physical attacker. So the team kind of doesn't really have a hard focus like Sun or Rain would. Usually the partner Pokemon are there to kind of just bolster them, make them a little bit better, help them out where they kind of have a weakness and things like that. And Spectre and Glastrier actually cover for each other fairly well. Glastrier is weak to fighting types and Intimidate. Spectre doesn't care about that stuff. So having that as a swap in for Glastrier can actually be a good thing for you. So looking at common partners for these teams, and it's usually the top 6 or 7 or 8. If you go to Pikalytics, you could probably find a lot of their partners right there in the top 5 or 6 or 7. Pokemon like Incineroar, Landorus, Porygon 2, Tapu Fini, Grimmsnarl, Regieleki, Indeedee. Trying to think of other ones off the top of my head. Dusclops is a good one. Dusclops is kind of avoided because it's got the same type as Spectrier, but it's an option. There's also thinking of other outside the box ones. Urshifu Dark is usually a really good one. Rillaboom's on these teams. So like the options are endless. And you kind of can just like play around and see if like, oh, I want to lean towards Spectrier as my main mode. Okay, well then I probably want to play Grimmsnarl. I probably want to play Indeedee, things like that. Or if I want to go closer towards Trick Room with Glastrier, you could probably play more Trick Room abusers, or you could add Sun, things of that nature. So the team is very flexible on what it can do and what it tries to accomplish. So I wanted to do this next part in kind of 2 parts here. So this is where we ended a lot of the double horse teams. This is from a team in December was top 4 on the ladder from Series 7 with double horse. So this is a support Spectrier with Scary Face alongside an Assault Vest Glastrier. This team also had a Metagross, Tapu Fini, Porygon, and Incineroar. So like I said, the teams are fairly flexible. But the main idea was if Glastrier doesn't do well, Metagross plus Spectrier can usually take over the game. And that's kind of what a lot of the teams from Series 7 at the end of that series was. It was like, okay, I have X and I have Y, and then I have a bunch of supports to go with it. A lot of bulky Pokemon, a lot of just stalling of games. Whereas Series 9 is kind of gravitating towards that format again, so these might actually be viable as an option again. Ended up being super, and if I remember correctly playing with it, it was super bulky and was really good at what it did. Spectrier's support pool was great for the format because you had a lot of speed control in the form of Tailwind, so Scary Face just puts them back at neutral. Bulldoze was very good at proccing policy on Metagross and also getting speed control that way. And it also unintentionally all helps out Glastrier. The Glastrier wasn't 0 speed IVs, but it was Brave Nature. If I remember correctly, 8 IVs gets you to like 33 or 34, which just puts you just a little bit faster than Amoonguss, which is what you want to hit, just outside of Trick Room. But a Pokemon at -2 or -3 after a Bulldoze and a Scary Face will probably be slower than your Glastrier. So Glastrier being able to be used outside of Trick Room was actually really good for it. Kind of gravitating towards Series 9 though, the team's probably going to look a little bit different. Spectrier's going to be more of a Dynamax threat because the format's a little bit faster, it's a little less bulky, it's a little bit more bulky on the physical offensive side because physical was very popular for Series 8. And Trick Room also kind of fell out of favor. The only Trick Room teams you really saw were things like Xerneas or Sun and stuff like that. So Spectrier kind of becomes this Dynamax option for your team. We're playing Life Orb with Hyper Beam, Mudshot, Shadow Ball. Funnily enough, Spectrier still gets to do that speed control thing for Glastrier because we have access to Max Strike off of Hyper Beam, which will do a ton with Spectrier's very high special attack stat, and its decent speed means it's going to get off as Max Strike almost every time. The Glastrier kind of gravitates away from that Assault Vest set. You can still play the Assault Vest set and be fine, but you also can gain access to the Slumberry set with Swords Dance, where you can get a Swords Dance off, eat a berry, that way you don't get hurt, paralyzed, sleep, whatever, and then you can Dynamax in front of something and then blow things up. It's really, really cool, and it's really, really unique, and I think it's a lot of fun. So definitely look at playing with these guys and trying out things like Incineroar on the team, Tapu Fini on the team, Porygon 2, stuff like that, and kind of try to play with it and see what you like and what you don't like. The teams overall are very flexible. Just like I just mentioned, it's the horses are very powerful, and the team tries to support each other equally, but sometimes you can't. It's what Pokemon is. You're always going to favor one mode a little bit more than the other. Like, you can have 3 and 3, but then that fourth Pokemon gets kind of lost in between them. So it's good to have 4 and 2 and things like that. You usually want speed control for both ends though. Things like Regieleki, Tailwind are really good for Spectrier that's trying to outspeed things. Trick Room for Glastrier is super obvious. Sometimes you can even get away with doing Electro Web, Scary Face, other speed drops like that to support Glastrier instead. Intimidate or Screens or even Redirection is usually an auto include in these kinds of teams as well, just because you want your horses on the battlefield for as long as possible, dealing out as much damage as possible, getting those Chilling Nays and Grim Nay boosts and stuff like that. And if you're worried about being threat light because you technically only have 2 Dynamax threats and then a bunch of supports, you could look at having a 3rd and 4th Dynamax threat outside of... What I'm trying to say is turning one of your supports into a actual Dynamax threat. Taking things like Incineroar and slapping an Assault Vest on it and making it max HP and max attack and have it Dynamax and blow things up. That could be an option. Tapu Fini makes a great hidden Dynamax option on a lot of teams because it's very bulky to begin with and doesn't need a ton of investment in its special attack to actually deal damage. If you're playing things like Landorus does a very good job of being a good max target because it really wants that Dynamax, it really wants those Airstreams, it really wants those Quakes to just boost its own stats so it doesn't just get blown out of the water by opposing ice types or whatever. So you can always look at turning your already supports into unique Dynamax threats or just finding something even more unique than that and kind of throwing people off their game. But so beating with Double Horse it's a lot of team select, it's a lot of like predicting your opponents, trying to make hard reads, things like that, because the team's so flexible. You don't know what they're going to lead at any given point. They could have both horses, they could have one horse, they could have no horses, depending on what your team has. Like a good example is if you lead to beat Trick Room and they end up going in fast mode with Spectrier and have good support behind it, you're going to have to learn to adapt. It's like, oh, well, my taunt's not going to do anything because they're Spectrier and their Indeedee is on the field. I can't stop this. There's nothing I can do. I can't taunt the Indeedee. I can't do anything like that, and Spectre's just going to blow me up. So you need to figure out how to adapt quickly, make a couple hard reads, try to think ahead of what your opponent's going to be doing, and try to get an advantage that way. And there's certain Pokemon that helps out against these teams a lot. Things like Urshifu, Single Strike, and Incineroar, particularly just do really good against both Glastrier and Spectrier. Urshifu and Incineroar both get access to dark type moves to hit Spectre really hard, and Urshifu has access to close combat, which hits Glastrier really hard. You can also Wicked Blow through all of his defense boosts, which is really good. Incineroar has access to Intimidate and Snarl. Both of these drop their damage, the respective damaging type by a stage, which is really good against them because they really want to get snowballing, and if they're at -1, it makes it much harder for them to actually snowball out of control. And also just stalling out the Dynamax is really good against them, and then punishing them by having your own Dynamax ready and available. I know it's a big thing right now of Series 9 is trying to stall out Dynamax, is trying to prolong the game, make it a little bit longer, take your time, things like that. So definitely be on the lookout for opportunities to where if they Dynamax early, you can just kind of just slow the game down. Try to tank as many hits as possible, come out with as least amount of KOs, least amount of boosts, and things like that. That being said, let's get this wrap up going because we're running a little bit longer than usual. And even though the horses aren't technically a combo or just overall very synergistic with each other, it puts a lot of teams on notice just because it's got very powerful threats and it's very flexible with its team building. So you can't really plan to beat Double Horse. It's not like a cold team where you're going to see Colossal, Rillaboom, Water Urshifu, Dragapult with Surf probably, or in the case of Evan, Tauros with Surf. You're not going to see that very often. It's going to be 2 horses and then maybe an Incineroar, maybe a Tapu Fini, maybe this, maybe that. So having a solid plan is going to be hard. When building with the team, make sure to support both horses as equally as possible. You're going to lean left or right. You're going to lean one way or the other almost every time. I personally would lean towards Spectrier right now just because I like being able to go fast and just blow things up. I know other people would like to lean towards Trick Room because Glastrier is very bulky and it's real easy to play with. So definitely consider that stuff when you're building with Double Horse. And as powerful as it is, strong players can navigate these teams really well on either side of it. So if you're up against a very powerful, a very good player, you're probably going to struggle trying to beat them because they're going to be able to hard read. They're going to be able to make those predicts and things like that. Whereas newer players playing against it are also going to have an equally harder time because you have to make those hard reads and you may not know what to do. So Double Horse overall is just this weird amalgamation that ends up being very powerful and very intimidating all at the same time. And that's going to do it for today. I want to thank everyone for hanging out, listening to me ramble on about Double Horse. It's a weird team comp, and I wanted to cover it because it's starting to tick up in popularity again. It's really, really cool, but it's really, really unique, and I think it's great. Make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications for when new videos go live. We're on Twitter. Make sure to go check out all of our Twitter handles and hang out there. Make sure to go check out the Discord. Today is the last day for the signups for our LRQ. Signups end at 8 a.m. Central Daylight Time on Saturday. So this is your last warning out in the world. Go sign up for the LRQ if you want a shot at playing in our winning a spot for our invitational in the fall. And I want y'all to have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever in the world. We will see you all next week with maybe a new core, maybe some weird team core that I saw from the LRQ. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out when we get there. Bye, guys.